Happy Tuesday, Maverick Currency Traders. This is Rob Reinhold. It is the Currency Recap, and we had a pretty wild last 24 hours. Let's jump into it. In this session, we're going to be going over what happened over the last 24 hours. We're going to take a look forward to what's happening over the next 24 hours. And as always, we're trying to pair up the strongest currencies against the weakest. That's where we hunt.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
We're going to take a look at the numbers for the day and the news, but we're also going to take a look at the crazy intraday volatility that we saw today as well. Let's start off with the news of the day. Last week in the currency room, we looked at the S&P chart and said it's turned to bullish, but we need to see what the executive orders are. And it got some good news from the markets because the markets are really worried about tariffs. And that's a huge deal in the world of currency. I mean, you think the stock market cares about tariffs. The currency market, that's all they care about. And the fact that no tariffs were announced in the first batch of executive orders was quite bullish. So we saw the dollar plunge, we saw the yen plunge, and then about 3 hours later, we saw President Trump say that he's likely going to start the tariffs on February 1st. And then what happened was everything reversed. Dollar shot up, went from down 1% to up 1%. Yen went from down 0.5% up to 0.7%. Everything that was up tumbled and went negative. And then today we got a nice bounce in the equity markets, and the risk on move came back, and the dollar that was up 1% ended up down a little bit. The yen was flat, and pretty much anything that was down was up to flat. So if you take a look at what happened, this doesn't look like a very good day. And in fact, unless you were intraday trading, there was no good trend trades. And if you had tight stops, you were knocked out on some of your entries. Because again, big moves, we'll take a look at them when we get into the charts. In the end of the day, everything was pretty much flat in Forex. We also had the claimant count change out of the UK that was stronger than expected. So remember, the Bank of England is now possibly looking to cut rates, and this one is going to make it less likely that they cut rates. We also got the Canadian CPI. It came in above estimates. Now, estimates were for negative 0.7 month over month, and it came in at negative 0.4. Now, this is just the month over month reading. Really, the core reading was right at 2%, didn't go any lower. So the Bank of Canada, remember, has been very aggressive in cutting rates. This is showing that they have inflation just where they want it, telling us that the Bank of Canada is likely on hold. As I said, lots of stuff going on all day long, but at the end of the day, Forex was basically flat. We come over here to the rest of the markets. We saw the S&P up 1%, the VT World Index up 1.2%, Crypto Basket had a nice day, gold was up, oil down slightly, and if we take a look at the cryptos, you can see Bitcoin Cash is where all the action was. But again, if you take a look at an intraday chart, which we will do here in just a second, at one point during the day, Bitcoin went from up 4% to down 2% to then close the day up 4%. At one point, Ethereum was down like 2 or 3% and it closed up positive. So big intraday reversals today, but we'll look at the charts. It didn't really tell us anything on the overall trend. If we take a look at the S&P, we are clearly now at a +2 outlook. And I talked about once we broke this trend line, it was bullish. And I said that over the weekend. I said, look, this is a bullish move on the S&P, but because of this special circumstance where we may have had these really bad tariffs be put in place, I wanted to see what Tuesday's candle was. And Tuesday's candle is a big fat green candle. We gapped up. And then we just kept going up all day long and closed at the high. That is a very, very strong candle telling me that we're likely to make a run at all-time highs here pretty soon. So for me, I'm very clear that there's a huge risk on move in the equities here. And that's what we saw today. We saw that once we had all that movement where Aussie, Kiwi fell, and the CAD fell, and then the dollar and the yen rose. That was all erased because of a strong risk-on move. And I think we're going to get more of that going forward. If you take a look on the schedule, we've got basically nothing over the next 24 hours. We did get Kiwi CPI that came in as expected. There's nothing on the news horizon for the next 24 hours. So let's just go in and look at some charts. I do think we got all that crazy volatility today. I think it's going to smooth out and there's going to be much better moves for the rest of the week. What I want to do first, before we go rank all these, I want to just go through and just show you today's candle. So take a look at today's candle. Well, you can also throw in yesterday's candle in Bitcoin. Take a look at today's candle on yen. Big move in yen. Dollar. Big move in dollar. But you can see they didn't go anywhere, but they all had big, long wicks. All have big, long wicks. These are tougher days to trade because stops get triggered pretty easily. I mean, look at CAD. At one point, this is a big, fat red candle to the downside. And then by the end of the day, it had come all the way back up. Aussie was down big. It closed flat. Kiwi closed flat. So again, big movements today, but nothing happened as far as trend analysis goes. So let's jump into that and let's take a look at where the strength is. And this to me is my only concern. I think it's a pretty clear call that there's a risk-on move that's going to be happening across the world over the next 2 to 3 days. We've got a clear breakout on the S&P. All the rest of the world markets are responding very, very well. We had great earnings after the bell from Netflix and United Airlines. Everything's looking great here. For me, it's trying to identify what the strong currency is. And if I start at the top, it's not yen. Yen is falling, so we got pretty much everything falling on yen. It's not yen. Dollar falling as well. Swiss franc falling, but not as fast. I'm trying to find what is the strongest currency. And we see the euro here is looking pretty decent. We got a nice rise here. We got a little bit of a high base in this area. So euro is starting to look decent. We take a look at pound. Pound's also starting to strengthen. And a pound can break out of this base here. It could be a nice little trade on pound. So I like both the euro and the pound. The CAD is flat. It's flat to still going down, so I'm not interested in the CAD on the long side. The Aussie is okay. I mean, this isn't a great candle. I would much rather be in the euro or the pound. And then we take a look at the Kiwi, and the Kiwi's looking definitely better than the Aussie. And you can see that we're starting to push above some resistance lines. When we really get down to it, euro and pound right now are looking the best. When we come over here and look at crypto, we can see the Bitcoin. It's got this big, big wall at 108. Is this the move that takes us through that wall? Well, like I said, I am seeing a pretty good risk-on move coming here over the next 48 hours. I think it could easily push through. So which one's the best one? I think you can see Bitcoin is the only one up there challenging all-time highs. So I think you stick with Bitcoin. We are getting a little pullback here. I think this pullback, if it draws it back into this 104 to 105 area, that could be a nice area if we do get a nice green candle moving it higher. Looking at the currencies stacked, you can see we've got +2s in the euro, the pound, the Aussie, and the Kiwi. I'm going to give Aussie and Kiwi like a +1.5. And I'll give Bitcoin like a +1.5. Pound and euro are the clear stars here, and the clear underperformers are the yen and the dollar. So let's go ahead and pair those up. I'm looking at what's better, euro or pound to go long, and what's better, dollar or yen to go short. And remember, this is where we throw in the two currencies. If we don't know which one's better, the euro or the pound, well, we go in and say, okay, let's just put euro pound on a chart and say, would you rather buy this or sell this here? And boy, you can see that over the last, this is a 4-hour candle chart, so you can see that over the last 3 days, it's been pretty much the same. Over the last 4 hours, the euro's been a little weaker than the pound, but I don't like to be that tied into it. I like to take a holistic view and say, hey, the euro is stronger than the pound overall. But right here is probably not all that different. So we're going to put the euro above the pound, and then let's pair up dollar versus yen. And you can see here, same thing. It has been basing here over the last, 4 or 5 days. But if you take a look at this, the dollar is falling for the yen. So that makes the dollar the weakest and the euro the strongest. That tells me that euro dollar is my number one pick as far as relative strength and weakness goes. And we can see we had, this downtrend that ended, and we're now putting in an uptrend, and we're hitting up against these pretty big lines here. A break through this 105 is going to be that next target. I like this one here. It's giving me a nice high base, and it's even breaking out a little bit here. Again, look at these wicks. This is where it's always tough in Forex trading, is when you get these wicks and you get these areas of resistance, you don't know exactly when it's broken out. This is where I love to pyramid or leg in to a trade, because we easily could fail at this point. We don't know. We won't know until there's a big fat green candle, and then it's going to be too late to get in. This is where I love to get into half positions, third positions, where you say, hey, look, I think it's going to go, but it could be one of these. It could be one of these where it fails, and then it sinks back down to 130.40. I don't want to get stopped out. I don't want to take my full position here and then get stopped out on a pullback only to see it break out and go higher. This is where a third of a position, get into some. Get into some, and if it pulls back, then you can get into some more. And then at some point, you'll build your full position, and you'll have a decent stop on it. But if it does take off and run, now it's just a matter of where you're going to grab some more. So maybe the next place you grab more is 104.40. You say, okay, once we've cleared out of this, all these wicks here, I'm going to grab my next third of a position at 104.40. And then again, you get into these as they're going for you. And if they pull back, then you've got plenty of time, and it got a really wide stop to weather these. So for me, euro dollar is good. Let's pair up pound yen. Definitely does not look as good on a 4-hour chart. You can see it hasn't really confirmed a turn yet. So I'm not going to be looking at this one. We could take a look at euro yen, but we've already determined that dollar and yen are very similar at the moment. And you can see virtually in the same position here. Euro dollar long is my favorite trade for the next 24 hours. We saw a lot of intraday volatility today. I think that smooths out. Again, it was all from news. It was all from the no tariffs to the maybe tariffs on February 1st. That news is likely to be gone for at least the next couple days until we hear again from President Trump about tariffs. But I feel like we've got this little sweet spot here where a risk-on move, I think, looks very, very highly likely. So let's go out there and hunt for some risk-on trades of currencies that are actually moving. It's too bad the Aussie and Kiwi aren't doing better. I usually like to go there when there's risk-on moves, but it looks like euro, pound are going to be the places to be. Thanks for joining me. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.